going on, Jerome, homies? So, yes, the NFL offseason is the most wonderful time of the year, other than the Vikings win the Super Bowl. But hope springs eternal, and the most important position in all of team sports, quarterback, gets turned over quite a bit. And we're going to go through and predict all 32 starting quarterbacks for the 2024 NFL season. And we went through, so of the 32, there is 19 that we think are basically mortal locks, knocking on wood, barring injury. So in alphabetical order, Kyler in Arizona, Lamar, Josh Allen, Bryce Young, Jumpin' Joe Burrow, Deshaun, Dak, Jared Goff. Although, could hookers take over in Detroit? It's happened before. Have you ever seen RoboCop? Anyway, Jordan Love, C.J. Stroud, Ant Richardson, which I could get on board if he wants to go by Ant. And I love me some Ant Edwards. Lawrence, Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith, who just had his bonus picked up with Seattle. Now, they could certainly draft a quarterback, but Brock Purdy with the Niners, even though Kirk go to the San Francisco would be kind of spicy, man. Then Will Levis in Tennessee, despite the new head coach. I think that if they, with Callahan, you really hire Brian Callahan because of his pops, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in NFL history. So if Levis can be protected, also they're in a great spot to potentially find themselves a great tackle at 7, whether it be Alt or Fashanu or Fuaga, whatever. Levis could be solid, man. I'm not sold on him, but I don't know. So the rest of the way, so beep, bop, 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 boop. We got 4 teams that are going to have their quarterback decided via free agency, and then the rest of them in the draft. All right, so starting off, I do think that Baker either gets tagged or signs a long-term deal with Tampa. I think that he may have found himself a home, which props to him. And it didn't work out in Cleveland, and then he was passed around the league. And I think that he finally found himself a really good spot with the Buccaneers. Now, can he succeed without Dave Canlis, his OC, who was named a new head coach of the Carolina Panthers? We'll see. Atlanta, I think they do it. I think they get it done. I think they trade a second-round pick to Chicago for Justin Fields. And I think that part of it is, yes, they could just sign Kirk Cousins, and I think that would open up a window for them. But they're such a young team, and I think that instead of just trying to jam in their ambitions to a 2 to 3 year Super Bowl window, I think that they want to grow and show with a young quarterback. And I think Fields is Georgia. Fields grew up in Georgia, Atlanta, as well as initially attended the University of Georgia before transferring to Ohio State. So I think that's what Atlanta wants to do. Also, you compare what Justin Fields does on the ground to what Michael Vick did on the ground. I think that was the last time that Atlanta was really box office. I think that does factor in as well, just trying to really ignite this fan base. So I think that's what they do at the end of the day. Steelers. So they're just waiting until they do cut Russell Wilson. And I think maybe Pittsburgh has some interest in Fields, except I don't think that they get in a bidding war with Atlanta. But Russ, with his contract quirk where he's guaranteed $37 million, can sign for the league minimum. And the Steelers, bit of cap issues at this moment in time, but I feel like Russ does give them, even though Russ wasn't great last year, working with stupid-ass Sean Payton and obviously with Nathaniel Hackett before, but I actually do think that Russ could give the Steelers a better chance to win versus Kenny Pickett and obviously Mason Rudolph, etc. The Raiders. So I feel like the Raiders could be in on Fields. I feel like the Raiders could be in a quarterback in the draft, but I think eventually they just get boxed out. And I think that they do sign Sam Darnold as a free agent, as well as maybe Pearson Company do roll with Aiden O'Connell, last year's selection out of Purdue. And so it's just sort of a waiting in that spot until they get Shedeur Sanders or Quinn Ewers, one of the two, man. So into the draft. So the Bears up at 1. Yeah, trading with Fields, Caleb Williams. I feel like the FOMO of potentially missing out on a guy who could be a Mahomes-like talisman at quarterback, I think it's just too much. And it's been 3 years. You still don't know what you have with Fields, which I think is pretty telling. So they go with Caleb Williams in this spot. Number 2, Washington. So like we said, Showtime, box office. Magic Johnson goes with Jaden Daniels. I understand that Drake May would have been fantastic in this spot, but I feel like the upside with Jaden Daniels is there, and there's going to be some electricity with the commies there in the DMV. The Patriots, so the Patriots are a ways away from competing, except I don't agree with the premise. I think Matt Miller put this out there that they're so bad that they shouldn't draft a quarterback. Nah. So get yourself your future franchise quarterback. You may struggle for a while, except you may not be in the top 3 ever again, and having a shot where Drake May, Drake May certainly has that upside. I do love his feistiness, competitiveness, his mobility, his arm strength. I think that he is a true leader out there. So I think that May in this spot is a great piece for them, and then you build around him and then go from there. It's a chicken or the egg situation. Like, do you want a good team and then draft a quarterback, or draft a quarterback then build a team around him? Who knows? But Drake May is off the board. The Vikings. So you'll notice the lack of Kirk Cousins with the Steelers and the Raiders and the Falcons. So I don't think that Kirk breaks the bank for all the reasons we talked about yesterday. But I think that he sees the market. He sees that he's not going to get a fully guaranteed 2 or 3 year deal, and he decides to strap it on one more time. 1 year deal, $40 million with the Vikings, and since it's a 1 year deal, the Vikings have their cake and eat it too. They trade up from 11 to 8 with the Atlanta Falcons, who all of a sudden don't need a quarterback with Justin Fields, and they take J.J. McCarthy dynamite. And I think it's the best situation where they roll with Kirk for another year. I think Kirk realized that his best chance to win is here in the great state of Minnesota with the Vikings. And McCarthy's only 21, and he was of the first round quarterbacks. I think that he would benefit the most from sitting a year and getting some NFL caliber coaching and tutelage, and really getting integrated into the Kevin O'Connell scheme. And then, McCarthy, once he gets a year of seasoning, like, this could be the Mahomes Alex Smith type situation, and McCarthy walks into probably one of the best spots for a young quarterback to be in. Given the indoor stadium, Justin Friggin, Jefferson, Addison, the weapons, etc. And also, we're Kirk back and the quarterback of the future in place. I think Justin Jefferson signs his long-term extension with the Vikes. Into the second round, so the Giants, so yes, they got Daniel Jones under contract. They could potentially get out of it if they ate some of the cap space, but they give him one more roll of the dice, one more year, but they get themselves some insurance at number 39 overall in the second round. Remember, they got 2 second-round picks because of the Leonard Williams trade. So they go with Michael Penix Jr., and yeah, you're worried about the health, but remember, he did stay relatively healthy 2 years at Washington. You're betting on that upside. Plus, I feel like with Penix's release and arm strength, I feel like that Daboll is just going to be like, we got an option. We certainly do have options here. So Daniel Jones and Michael Penix Jr. Going to compete and duke it out, see what happens there. With the Saints, so yes, Derek Carr is in place. Yes, they are in cap hell. So I don't see them, because they would actually have more dead cap if they moved on from Carr. So I think they're stuck with them for a year. But they do take Bo Nix, number 45 overall in the second round. So Derek Carr, Bo Nix compete. Eventually they'll get rid of Carr, and then Bo Nix could potentially take over down in Big Easy. With the Dolphins, yes, the Dolphins. Like, I understand that Tua can put up some yardage, but are you sold that he's the guy? Are you ready to give $50 million a year to Tua? I don't know. I think they let it ride for another year contract-wise at Tua, and also they take Michael Pratt in the second round, number 55 overall, and it's quite a commitment, especially since the Dolphins don't have a third or fourth round pick. So, Tua really needs to get his ish together, or they could go with the solid 4-year starter, 6'3", 210 coming out of Tulane, strong arm, and also with all the weapons that they have in Miami, as well as a damn good running game, maybe they can get something going. Although maybe Teron Armstead retires, so maybe they're just poop out of luck. Who knows, man? With the Rams, so yes, Stafford probably has a couple of good seasons left in him. I think that, especially if the Rams signed Danielle Hunter, which I don't want them to do. I think the Rams could certainly be tooling up for a good Super Bowl push, but also this is one of the first times that they've actually had their own draft picks at the top end of the draft. So in the third round, they take a gamble. They roll the dice. Spencer Rattler, a.k.a. the Burt Favre of this year's draft. And, Rattler, some maturity questions, some attitude questions, some consistency questions, yes. But I do think that if McVay is going to stay with the Rams long term, you have a potential succession plan in place. And Rattler, he lost to Caleb Williams, the true freshman at Oklahoma back in the day. But, Rattler, Rattler's got a huge arm, and also he had himself a damn good Senior Bowl week. So we'll see what happens with the Rams. And Denver, so stupid-ass Sean Payton. What happened? So loses out. They cut Russ first off, and then they get boxed out. They can't get themselves some J.J. McCarthy. Seems a little bit too early to draft Penix, Nix, or Pratt or Rattler, whatever. So eventually they just let it ride, and they roll with Jarrett Stidham. And the 5th round, they take Jordan Travis. Now, stupid-ass Sean Payton is looking for the next Drew Brees. And Jordan Travis, shortish, 6 foot and change, coming off that horrific injury at Florida State. But he is a good distributor of the football. Not the strongest arm in the world for sure, but he can get it downfield to a degree. And is this a guy that Sean Payton could work with and eventually mold and maybe become the starting quarterback? Possibly. Or they just say, F it, go fish, and then we'll tank and go get Jarrett Stidham next year. Not Jarrett Stidham, Quinn Ewers. Pretty similar guys. Doesn't matter. But that's it. That's predicting all 32 quarterbacks for the 2024 NFL season. I think the Vikings turned out pretty good. You got one final year of Kirk, and then the JJ to JJ dynasty begins, man. There you go. But let us know your thoughts on our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.